Hi, I've been requested to go and use exercise 5A, number 12, B, D, and F. And the common feature that this student had trouble with was the fact that the middle term is a negative number. And he kept on getting mistake because he's using the previous example, which had the middle term as positive. Now, we need to get back to what a perfect square is. So recalling that a perfect square is, for instance, x plus a all squared. And the shortcut was square the first term. So here's the first term, square it. Take the second term and square it. Multiply the two terms together. That's a times x, ax, and then double it. And that's all you have to remember. So for instance, if we went to quickly expand x plus 5 all squared, square the first term. 5 squared is 25. Multiply 5 and x together and double 5x, you get 10x. Where the student struggle with is with the negative a value. So let's go here. And here's x squared, the first term, x squared. And this is the trick. Minus a times minus a is plus a squared. And that's where he struggled. He's got to remember it's always a positive a squared. Always positive in a perfect square. So let's have a look at an example. X minus 6 all squared. Square the first term, x squared. Square the second term. Minus 6 times minus 6 is plus 36. And now multiply the two terms together. Minus 6 times x is minus 6x. Double it. So we end up having a middle term with a negative coefficient. So remember, for perfect squares, square the first term, square the second term, always positive, and then multiply the terms together and double it. So let's have a look at this example here. That's number D. X squared minus 12x plus 28. So remember, we're going to you do the first two terms. We're going to set up a perfect square with the x squared minus 12x. So move the 28 across because have been told to use the completing squared. Now, the opposite of what we've been doing, instead of doubling it, we halve it. So minus 12 halved is minus 6. And now square it, and this is the trick. It becomes positive 36. And we need to undo that, so it's minus 36. So we now have these three terms, which can be simplified to a perfect square. So x minus 6 all squared, just check. Square the first term, square the second term, always positive 36. Multiply two together and double it. And of course, remember, we now have the negative 36 plus 28, which reduces to x minus 6 all squared minus 8. And we have the situation where we can set up the difference of perfect square if we turn 8 into a third. So the square root of 8 squared is still 8, but we have set up the perfect square. So x minus 6 minus, and by the way, remember what root 8? It simplifies to 2 root 2. So repeat, x minus 6 plus 2 root 2 and x minus 6 minus root 2. Oh, there should have been a minus there. And so you get the opposite of minus 6 is plus 6, and it'll be plus or minus 2 root 2. I will do number B with you, and I'll do it with pen just to show you that you don't need all these steps. So let's go to the next page and see if I can get a pen to work. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. So here's that classic negative 4x. Oh gosh, so let's see if I cannot tuss it. So we've got negative 4x, so the middle term has a negative number. Remember, we're focusing on that two terms to set up. So we're going to do the opposite of doubling it. We're going to halve it. So this becomes minus 2. So it's going to be x minus 2 all squared is our perfect square. Of course, by setting this up, minus 2 all squared is plus 4. So we're technically adding, so we need to undo the plus 4, which is minus 4, plus the original 2. And so that's our next step. So can you see, just simply halve that and set up as a perfect square. Expand that, you would have got plus 4, so we've added an extra 4, so we have to subtract that 4. And we'd end up with x minus 2 all squared minus 2 equals 0. So we have our difference of perfect squares. So that's x minus 2. Remember, we're going to set this up as the square root of 2, so minus plus root 2. X minus 2 minus root 2 equals 0, which is the null factor law. And so x is, remember, because x has got a coefficient of 1 in front of it, just the opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. The opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. The opposite of plus root 2 is minus root 2. And the opposite of minus root 2 is plus root 2. So we have that solution. I'll just do that again, just so that we all very clear, except maybe this step here, some people got lost, so I'll do that again. Maybe if you need the extra step. So remember, we're going x squared minus 4x. We're moving the plus 2 across. Half of 4 is 2. Minus 2 squared is plus 4. Remember, in a perfect square, that is always positive. And it's the half the middle term squared. Of course, we have to undo that minus 4. So here you can see that becomes x minus 2 squared. Leaves us with minus 2. And of course, we have our null factor law. I hope that helps you. Don't forget the next lesson is on the quadratic formula. If worst case comes to worst, use the quadratic formula.